Welcome, everyone, to the Integration Hub, a podcast powered by Orderful, and I'm your host, Grace Sharkey. Now, at Orderful, our mission is simple: make integrations fast, reliable, and easy. And our cloud-based platform replaces the headaches of traditional EDI with a more modern API-driven network, helping, of course, brands like yourself, retailers, and logistics providers to connect in days instead of the dreadful months. Now, this podcast actually is here to extend that exact same mission. Now, every episode that you see moving forward will bring together customers, partners, and industry innovators to share insights and, of course, how connectivity shapes growth, reduces friction, and unlocks new opportunities for businesses as well. Got to kick things off. We have to start this season this way. Orderful's founder and CEO, Erik Kiser, will join me to share the story of how Orderful started, why integrations matter more than you think, and what the future of supply chain connectivity looks like. Erik, excited to have you here. How excited are you for us to get this show off the ground running?
It's great, Grace. I appreciate you hosting. And yeah, we're excited to have you on the team as well to do more of this stuff.
Well, and I think what's awesome about this is it's a way for us to not only educate our customers, but just all of those out in the logistics fields, all of those shippers, retailers, and especially small brands that are looking for ways to grow their business scale and might not realize all of the headaches that might be happening because of their providers as well. So we'll get into a lot of that really great content as the show continues on, but we're going to do our first loop and segment concept today, and that, of course, is looking into integrations as a whole and why they've become such a bottleneck within supply chain too. But let's segment that out and dive into, of course, what brought us here to Orderful today, Erik. And for you personally starting this business, what were you doing when you first realized, okay, integrations are a pain, this needs to be fixed?
Yeah, so I'm from the Midwest. I think you are as well.
Yeah.
Grew up in Indiana. We got a degree in computer science from actually to recall the informatics from IU. And like every decent Big Ten student, I became a management consultant in Chicago. And the first projects I was on in my early 20s were supply chain integration projects. And at the time, I didn't know what EDI was. Right, it was my introduction to EDI. I was traveling around the United States and building custom integrations for manufacturers and small brands and connecting them to their retail environments, their logistics providers, their warehouses. And I started to kind of pull on a common thread with all these companies that they all have the same problem. And, for some reason they were hiring me. I was 21, had essentially no idea what I was doing at the time, but they needed help, right? And kind of what that told me is that this is actually a pretty hard problem to solve, and there's a lot of companies out there trying to build EDI integrations or solve the problem on their own. So fast forward 3 years after that experience as a consultant, I ended up starting my own consulting firm, and all we did was EDI integrations. I have the luxury, because I was a kind of a professional services expert, I have the luxury of working with all the incumbents in the space. So I think all of our big competitors now today at Orderful. I saw how their products worked. I got a chance to understand their business models and what worked really well for them and what didn't. And to be quite honest, I got kind of frustrated with the status quo of EDI, and I wasn't happy with kind of the experience I was having as a developer trying to solve the problem with the team of both nearshore and offshore resources. What I recognize is that there was an opportunity to make EDI enablements really fast and easy, and the gap in the market at the time, this is about 7 years ago when we started Orderful, the gap in the market is that none of the incumbents were focused on speed. They're all focused on something else. It's a lot of public companies. I think there's about 7, companies in our space doing above 200 million in revenue. So a lot of really big old legacy players that had solutions that didn't match the technology stack that I just learned about in school, which was, APIs and microservices and anything that was modern. Um, so the opportunity I saw was, as an EDI developer, it was taking a very long time for me to go live with, a company like Walmart. Let's say it would take, call it 90 days if I was lucky, right? And I thought I was like a developer at the time. It didn't make any sense. So maybe I wasn't that good. Uh, so I started kind of building. We started building all the different components that I thought we needed to create this platform that could make EDI trade really easy and fast. So the vision of starting Orderful 7 years ago was, let's turn EDI enablements to an experience like flipping a switch. It's instead of it taking, call it 90 days, how can we make a new EDI onboarding experience take seconds? Um, what I'm really proud of at Orderful is we've been able to dramatically improve that time. Our customers on average today went live within 9 days, which is a 10x improvement uh, from my experience as an EDI developer. And we're building more. I'm excited to continue to build more software to take it from, 9 days to 9 hours, 9 hours to 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 seconds, and eventually get to that, that kind of light switch experience for an EDI product. And we're really not far off. Um, yeah, that's kind of the
Yeah.
starting story.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting throughout that journey. When did you get those early signs that, you're onto something, that this was something that was possible and not just this, hopeful dream that you had?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most challenging thing as a founder of you know software, whatever it is you're doing. Um, is convincing yourself that you're solving the right problem. And once you have enough conviction in yourself, then you can bring other people along with you. And that was, those early days, pre-product, right? Pre any solution, I would just go around with my consulting clients and pitch them, a PowerPoint deck that was this vision of what Orderful could be. It wasn't, at the time there was no reality to it. It was like, hey, this is all hypothetical. We could build this. Would you be interested in, would you be interested in giving us some cash and we'll go build it? So we had a number of, kind of early adopters that helped me gain enough conviction that it was going to work. Um, EDI is a very challenging place to be, though. There's a lot of nuance to onboarding an EDI customer, a lot of nuance to the EDI transactions themselves, a lot of nuance between trading partner requirements. So it ended up taking us, quite a long time to build a complete product that the market started to adopt. But that was kind of the early signs of conviction, was getting, those first customers to agree to give us some cash with no product.
Yeah, that nuance aspect is interesting too. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit for those who are maybe working for their orgs and starting to realize that the EDI integration means more than maybe they thought in the past, and how that nuance plays into it?
Yeah, the challenge is that every partner you trade with, and we call them trading partners, every partner you trade with has different requirements. So if a company's onboarding with like a Walmart or a Target or a Costco, each one of those organizations has their own business requirements for how to do business with them, right? So if you're a small brand, let's say you make widgets, you have, 3 products in your catalog, you're just getting started, just getting into wholesale for the first time, you've never seen EDI. You may build an integration for Walmart, but you may not realize that you need to build one for Target and Amazon and Costco if you want to sell your widgets in those other places. So the challenge is like, for small companies like that, they don't have the resources typically to build software to begin with, right? They're focused on building great widgets. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the biggest challenge, is like for a small organization having the resources to solve the problem, but also kind of parse through all the different requirements from all those partners, and that's what's really challenging.
There's an aspect I like to hear from you on the user interface of this all too, because I was recently talking to one of our really proud customers. And she touched on the fact that she wasn't a technologist. She's like, never have been. I've never saw myself doing this in the future. But what she loved about Orderful was the fact that this made her feel like she was a technologist, that she had gained skills because of how simple the platform is. How did that go into all of this at the end of the day, too? Being a technologist yourself, how do you almost, I don't want to say dumb that down, but make it user friendly so that people like her can enjoy that new skill that they get really from using Orderfill?
Yeah, I hope that people enjoy EDI after using our product, but I think before it's not an enjoyable experience. Um, I think the challenge is like, a lot of other EDI companies will create a black box with your data. So if you built an integration to one of our competitors, you may not know what's happening behind the scenes with that information. They may be translating it on your behalf. And one of the tenets of our products or of our product when we built it was, let's expose all the transformation and make it self-service for an end user. So that, it's been one of our core kind of tenets is like, let's remove this black box. And I think by enabling the user to see what's happening behind the scenes, you're giving them all the power. And they can actually go in and adjust transformations or translations themselves, which is quite powerful in the market. It enables people to move really fast.
Definitely. I mean, you see that I think in a lot of the tools that are out there today, right? Is like the simplicity of, I mean, I'm not a graphic designer, but Canva sure makes me feel like one here, right? So it's like, I love that we've had that here at Orderful as well. And to loop this back to integration still being a huge bottleneck, you touched on a lot of I think those pain points, but I'm also interested in the underestimating of the cost of bad integrations. Where have you seen that come to fruition for companies and customers in the past as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, in my past life, I was a consultant, right? So I would, you know, I thought I was very fair with my clients and handled them very well. Um, but there's plenty of cases where, they would end up, we wouldn't catch something. They'd end up spending, a lot more on our services because we had to go and build for this, custom thing for one trading partner. Right. And I think that's where kind of some of those challenges come is like that additional cost can come up front when you're building if you don't have all the requirements in one place. And then once you're live, like the risk is if you haven't properly tested with a trading partner and you haven't gone through that whole testing cycle, the risk is that, you may be sending bad data to your partner, and they have a right to charge you back. So it's pretty common for, mid-market or enterprise brands to have, a team in their accounts receivable department that's basically just doing full-time reconciliation around supply chain transactions. Because, you may ship and invoice goods to a trading partner, um, but a month later, or based on your invoice terms, payment terms, 2 months later, maybe 3 months later, you're going to get an off invoice line item back that says, you didn't ship the right quantity of goods, or, the UPC code was wrong for this product, so we couldn't scan it in. And the buyer has a right to charge you back for that. So, with our product, we've been able to actually solve that problem completely. What we do in Orderful is we provide a validation engine so that, once somebody hits our API, you're going to know, they're going to know immediately what's right or wrong with the transaction. So kind of exposing that validation, exposing the trading partner requirements into one experience enables them to kind of prevent any sort of kind of production issues that happen going forward.
Yeah, it's we use I think the metaphor of right like piping here at Orderful often to explain like these pain points that you almost don't understand exist until your pipe burst right in your house and you realize, oh, this didn't really care about it when it was in the wall, but sure care about it when it's affecting my
Right.
flooring, walls, etc. And I think
You, you
that's what
you
we,
never want, like, plumbing in the house is probably the worst thing that could happen.
yeah,
I actually saw these guys in town. They were wearing these extreme plumbing shirts. And it made me laugh. I was like, I would never want to deal with extreme plumbing. That sounds terrible. Or like an extreme plumbing disaster. Yeah, I think the same thing goes with EDI, right? You want your plumbing with your partners to work. I mean, if
Yeah,
it fails, you can lose out on orders, invoices, all kinds of stuff.
love it. Well, a cool part of this show, Eric, is that we have a wonderful audience across social media and even down to our fans on Reddit, who of course have a lot of questions too. So we're pulling questions from those on our socials. If you have questions, go check us out, send us a message, let us know. We'll of course showcase those on this show, and. A couple I thought were really great kind of thought leadership questions for you in particular. And one that got the most upvotes recently on the subreddit for EDI was, what does the future of EDI look like? Right. And I think if you could answer this, not even, of course, like from a customer standpoint, from even a technologist standpoint, what do you feel like the future of EDI is going to turn into?
Yeah, the future of EDI will be pre-connected, right? So, EDI as we know it, the way that people handle EDI probably will not go away because, and I'll get to the pre-connected part, but everyone has adopted EDI, and it is very hard to rip and replace systems or software out of enterprises or have them kind of move to some new standard, right? Because another standard is just another standard, right? And it's, maybe there's some value in terms of efficiencies, but it's really, really hard for them to completely kind of like have everybody pivot at one point and move to this new thing. Let's say, the argument is like the whole world is moving towards APIs. Well, the reality is that not every company can handle that. Everybody has product roadmaps, and they have planned activities for a year, and that's, pretty unrealistic to think that everybody can move at once. Now, what we're doing at Orderful is we are offering an API experience that enables companies to trade in the legacy EDI formats, right? So instead of thinking about replacing EDI, Orderful is a bridge to the future for EDI. We also handle API connections, and eventually we'll handle other file formats. But when you think about our product, like really what we're doing is creating this pre-connected network that enables you to use modern technology like a RESTful API to communicate with your supply chain, and your supply chain is sending and receiving EDI transactions. So, hopefully Orderful is ideally we're the winner in the space, the champions in the space. I think we're pretty far ahead in terms of tech and experience. But I do believe that the future is pre-connected, whether that's Orderful or some other competitor that comes out.
Well, it'll be orderful. Yeah, that's that's for sure. Now, on a note that we've talked about too a little bit is the AI of it all, right? So, of course, we have to touch on AI. It's what every person in technology is looking at, and I love for you, of course, to touch on this again, not just from an EDI standpoint, but just what we're working at here at Orderful. But a question that came across was, how can EDI be combined with AI to enhance an ERP integration, et cetera? What's your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, so our AI journey started. I don't know why that was hard for me to get out. Our AI journey started a few years ago. Um, we actually commissioned a group of uh, graduate students, PhD students at Berkeley to try to build a modern kind of version of Orderful using AI. The challenge is that the challenge we found is that, like, because these EDI specs are all PDF files and in different formats, it's really hard for the AI to accurately parse that, and on top of that, accurately map source data to those requirements and make decisions for a business. Um, so I think, like, you know, AI completely replacing EDI could happen. Like, this technology is getting pretty amazing. Like, you can do a lot with AI today. Um, you can build like a website in minutes, right? It's quite impressive. Um, I do think at some point I'll get smart enough to end up building a map. But I think in this space, what really matters is there's a lot more to EDI than just building the map, right? There's the plumbing, there's the infrastructure. In this space, what really matters is like how fast can you move to add new trading partners, right? Because the time to value is kind of everything. The longer you spend on onboarding new trading partner, the more time you're spending in the company doing that work. So whether that's an FTE or a consultant, you're spending a lot more time and money on that effort. The other challenge with going, onboarding a new partner and call it, if it takes quarters, or even weeks and not days, is that, you're losing out on the opportunity to sell your products more quickly. So if you're the widget company, you're making widgets, like if it takes you a month to go live with Walmart, that's a whole month where you're not generating revenue. And whereas you could have that done in, call it, seconds. So I think the real winner here is the company that figures out how to make the market, or how to make these EDI connections as fast as possible, and how to help companies solve problems as fast as possible. But I think that's kind of where the market's going.
I like that. I mean, it's the friction, right, in between trade that we're just trying to eliminate, and especially I think this special case of friction in particular. Uh, I love, like you said, AI is everywhere. How do you lead Orderful to think about AI not in just, of course, building, but how we're doing our jobs every day as well?
What have you seen? Heck on you.
I mean, I will say, and I've said this on, I think, a podcast or two now. Uh, I love you and the leadership kind of put it on us to create our own AI journey in our own work. I think that gives us ownership of the outcome of what that looks like, but it also gets us to think outside the box more and think about, really what Orderful is doing as a whole, right?
For
If
sure.
I can we
We're
we
trying not to
can walk the
prescribe.
talk when we walk the
I think it's
walk.
kind of impossible to prescribe, like, for everyone. There's 100 employees here, right? It's kind of impossible to prescribe, like, okay, you need to use AI to do this, 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 like all of it. Rather, like, enable people to have the right tools in place to leverage AI to learn, how they could kind of enhance their day to day. One of our core values at Orderful is learn, iterate, and grow. And, this kind of follows that sentiment of like, empowering our people to continue to learn, iterate, and grow on their own. As far as what we're doing within the company, we are heavily using AI to automate a lot of third-party communication. So when you look at like trading partner requirement gathering or communication, we're using a lot of AI for that. We're using AI to be kind of our first level of defense when it comes to support tickets, right? Providing like an AI chatbot and the product that can reference reference articles. Of course, if there's like bigger challenges, you talk to a human. But there's a lot of ways in which we're leveraging in terms of our customer experience. And the last but not least, we do have some pretty exciting software being developed right now that's in beta, where we're going to completely eliminate, kind of this legacy way of trading EDI. And I'm just going to tease it.
Yeah,
That,
you
but
see
really
there's your
excited about
tone right there on it. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting, and we'll have an episode out here shortly to go over that as well. But we got some really great things coming here as we wrap up the
Pretty
year
excited.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited.
It was directly in line with the vision of, you know, helping companies take EDI onboarding, from, call it, 90 days, 9 days, 9 days, 9 hours, 9 hours, 9 minutes, right? If you don't have to think about how to, create an EDI transaction, you just hit an API.
Mhm.
That's kind of the ultimate product experience we can deliver.
Well, and talk about what we're delivering. I mean, to discuss the AI aspect too, and look back to what we just announced this past Friday. So we're getting to the vibe coding of it all here at Orderful, which I love,
That's
and it is really cool. Can you tell our audience a little bit about the label maker that we just put out there And even the fact that we are offering it an element of it for free, right? Which is really cool too.
Yeah. So part of, one of the kind of tangential jobs of EDI is printing labels, right? Like you got to put labels on a box, right? So the warehouse that receives the box can actually scan the box and understand what goods are in the box. It's called the UCC 128 label. When we were building Orderful, we realized our brands, everybody needed this, right? It's just like is a need, not a want in the market. As part of it, kind of was like combined with the core requirements of EDI. Um, so we went ahead and built a label API a couple of years ago. I think now we have about 150 different standards published on that API. So if you need to slap a label on a box for Walmart, Target, Costco, Amazon, you name the retailer, we probably have them. What we did is we took one of the vibe coding tools. We fed it our label API and said, hey, make us a microsite where business users can go and generate labels with the click of a button. And it's really cool. Basically, we created a UI on top of that API experience so anyone could go to that website and generate free labels. So if you have, if you're like a startup or even mid-market company and you're struggling with labels, you don't have to worry about label blueprints anymore. That's done. The API handles that. And B, you can use this product to generate all the labels you need for your whole pick, pack, and ship process.
It's awesome. And again, I think it goes back to the culture that you've built here too. To just always look to continue improving and be a part of the journey that Orderful has laid as well. To wrap this up with you, Erik, what's one lesson that you've learned so far, working here, leading, of course, growing Orderful? What's a lesson that you can leave our audience with for those in leadership positions or looking to get into leadership watching the show?
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot. It's hard to pick one. Um, I think my biggest takeaway is to be as transparent as possible with the team, right? And when things are great, that's really easy, right? And when right now Orderful is like absolutely just ripping. Like our growth has been crazy. Um, we have we've got over 600 happy customers now. Like the company's growing really fast. 100 employees, right? Last year at this time, we were probably like 45 full-time employees. Um, it's been really fun. These have been, a really great couple of years. First 5 years of the business were really hard, right? Building a complete EI product, something that everyone could use from mid-market to enterprise. Really challenging space to be in to kind of build all those features out. Um, and during those tough times, I think kind of the most powerful thing uh, that came out is, I showed the team that they kind of came to me was I was showing the team that I cared by showing them like truly how I felt and truly where we were in the market and not trying to sugarcoat like that everything was going to be fine. Right. And uh, there were some moments there that were pretty hectic. But I think the people that, I know for a fact the people that were around for those times are still here and some of our highest performing team members because they, I think probably, have bought into kind of the fact that we can do anything, right? The fact that like, hey, if we have a problem, we can solve it. And, I think I think that the team is looking at leadership to be honest with them so that everybody understands kind of, you know, what's ahead. And I think that's created a culture of excellence where, not only have we shown as a leadership team, shown the team that we care, but the whole team is showing that they care. I know everybody here works really, really hard, and I'm really proud of what the team's been able to do. Um, and yeah, I think that's probably the biggest lesson. Seems simple, but it's in practice can quite challenging.
Well, I will say this is about 2 months and a week and a half into the role here and being a part of the team. And from my perspective, I will say the outcome of everything you just said is everyone takes ownership in their work. They understand, their that matters to the overall team. And it's probably honestly one of the only places I've ever worked at. I truly mean this to everyone out there, even if Erik wasn't sitting in front of me right now. This is probably the only place I've ever worked at that's had that type of culture where this is your role. We trust you in what you're doing, but we expect that work from you. And it's been a wonderful ride so far, and I can't wait to see where this journey goes. Yeah, of course. And for everyone watching, we're going to take a quick break here with some updates, but we'll be back for the end of the episode to touch on, of course, the point of all this and what you should expect from future episodes as well. Thank you, Erik, for joining us.
Thank you, Grace.
That interview was wonderful, and big thank you again to Erik Kiser for bringing me on and, of course, being our first guest here on the show. And if you're looking to actually meet some more members, well, get excited. Of course, we'll continue to highlight those individuals on this show moving forward. But in the meantime, our team is going to be hitting the road and might be coming to a very special event near you. Now, up first, you can catch our team at Sweet World. Yes, not Sweets, good old Sweet World event in Las Vegas from October 6th to the 9th. And you can find us at booth 121 right next to the Sweet Cafe. And if you're looking to schedule a meeting with our team, and reach out to Paul Vasello at the email below. You can reach out to Paul, and we'll, of course, get that on our books for the event. And we'll actually be on the other side of the country later on in October as well at Dynamics Community Summit from October 19th to the 23rd. I'll be there with Jenna Buckley, of course, to meet people on site. And if you're looking to schedule some time with us as well, you can shoot an email to Jenna at the email below too. And of course, it's time to wrap up our first show, and let's get to the point. Now, at the end of every episode of the Integration Hub, we're going to ask ourselves, well, what's the integration point? And from today's episode and conversation with Erik, I think it's clear that integrations aren't just plumbing in the background of supply chains. They're critical connections between growth and missed opportunities. Now, we learned how legacy EDI creates bottlenecks that slow brands down, why exposing data instead of hiding it in a black box can empower users, and of course, how Orderful is pushing towards a future where connecting a new trading partner is as easy as flipping a good old switch. Now, that's the integration point of today's episode, eliminating friction so businesses can focus on what they do best. Let us be the technologists. Let us let you do what you do. Well, modern technology takes care of all of the connectivity. Now, if you enjoyed this conversation, well, there's more to come. Make sure you follow Orderful on LinkedIn. That way you get updates when we share future episodes, other updates, insights, of course, from across our network, and opportunities to meet us in person at events near you as well. Other than that, hey, thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of the Integration Hub. I'm Grace Sharkey. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay connected.
Still relying on legacy EDI? Manual work, costly van providers, and slow onboarding are holding you back. Orderful changes everything. Onboard trading partners 10 times faster, automate every transaction, solve production issues in seconds, and stay compliant across all your trading partners. Connect once, trade with the world. Go live in under 9 days with pre-built connections and real-time validation. With built-in support for leading ERPs and systems of record, Orderful fits seamlessly into your existing tech stack. Orderful is #1 in time to value for EDI. Orderful supports all core EDI documents across your supply chain, from order to cash, procure to pay, and logistics to warehousing, and with no hidden fees, ever. Whether you're upgrading your ERP, clearing a trading partner backlog, or done with the cost and complexity of legacy EDI, Orderful helps you move faster with zero surprises and complete control. The EDI infrastructure of the future, available today. Built for change, ready for growth.